Mumbai Shadows, the Silvah Foxx mission. The sun beat down on the bustling streets of Mumbai, the chaotic symphony of the city in full force. It was a typical day in the metropolis, one that was hot, humid, and filled with the sights, sounds, and smells of the city. From the moment the sun rose, the city was on the move, with people rushing to and fro, vendors shouting their wares, and motorbikes weaving precariously between cars. It was a city that never slept, a city that was always in motion. The streets of Mumbai were alive with activity, with vendors selling everything from fragrant spices to gleaming trinkets. The air was thick with the smell of spices, the aroma of street food, and the exhaust fumes from the constant flow of vehicles. Hawkers pushed carts laden with mangoes and sugarcane juice through throngs of people, their voices rising above the din of the city. It was a chaotic and bustling scene,